Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of To The Point. The Congress Party completed its 84th plenary session for the first time under the presidentship of Rahul Gandhi, laying out its vision and agenda. But the million-dollar question is, what's the way forward for the grand old party, and can it really engineer a coalition of sorts for the 2019 elections? Joining me now is veteran Congress leader and also the longest-serving parliamentarian of the country. I welcome Mr. Kamal Nath on To The Point. My first question to you, of course, is that for the first time, people in the country witnessed a Congress plenary session which was minus the white mattresses, senior leaders sitting on the stage, which was really a norm. But this time it was a complete departure. So does it really indicate some kind of a shift in the party's approach?
Well, the seating should not merely depict the change in the party. This was better optically.
Okay.
And
yes,
sitting on the stage
optics,
on mattresses is very old. And so we wanted to do the new way. If you see in all the conventions, all over the world, party conventions, this is the format. You see the Republican convention in the United States, you see the Democratic convention in the United States. The speaker is on the dais and he alone is on the dais. So I think this was a right approach. We were really getting into what should be done.
But do you really feel that this change, which was seen recently, could have come earlier? As a senior leader, what do you feel?
Well, I think that this is, it's only a few months since Rahul Gandhi has taken over the presidentship. And this was the right moment. Obviously, we have recognized the change. We have started adopting and adapting it. This was Rahul Gandhi's first presidentship. The session was held under his presidentship. So the change is apparent. The change is apparent that he wants a new generation of people, rightly so. You are seeing a new generation of politicians come everywhere. You are seeing new challenges. You are seeing in India, politics is becoming very localized. There's no one-size-fits-all political solution. What will be good for Karnataka is not good for Madhya Pradesh. What's good for Madhya Pradesh is not good for Haryana.
When Mr. Rahul Gandhi laid out the vision and the agenda, what the party wants and how the party will project itself, let's go by the issues one by one and what he said and what he actually meant. Now, in his address, he made a very interesting comment, and that's when he said that there is a wall between our leaders and workers, and he needs to break that wall. Now, what is the actual implication? That he's talking about the accessibility factor, that the workers were not accessible, and now that the workers will be welcome. How does one read?
Well, I think it's what he means by a wall is there's a lack of coordination, and he's right in that.
Okay.
Many times leaders get occupied only with those who are close with them or who are right at the forefront. Those who are on the back get left behind.
In fact, this has been an often used accusation against the party that not many people are accessible to Madam Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi.
Well, obviously, the whole country can't, everybody coming from all over the country in all states, they cannot start meeting them. That's obvious. That's why you have general secretaries, that's why you have secretaries, that's why you have a party apparatus, you have a party structure. And so I meet, as general secretary of the party, I meet people from all over. I was general secretary of the party in 2001, and which I am even today. But within states, you find people wanting to come and meet. Obviously, everybody will want to meet Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. But we must remember that they have 24 hours in a day, not 25.
But when Rahul Gandhi says that there has to be a certain connect between the youth and the politics and the political system, from this statement, are we to assume that since youth will be encouraged and will be encouraged to come and take the center stage as the stage was left vacant for them during the plenary session, so are we to assume that senior leaders like Manmohan Singh will take a back seat?
No, I think he did also say that we are going to use all the experience of the senior leaders, the older leaders. We are going to use them in different places, which is right. They must really train and guide the new ones coming in. But the end of the day is not that anybody who comes in, he must be electable. He must be electable. That is the point. And you may say that I'm youth, so I should contest. That's all very well.
But how many senior leaders of the party are open to this idea that Rahul Gandhi will be dictating the terms to them? He will be telling them that, look, this is the manner in which you you will have to go about. And because there are reports of many senior leaders not actually liking this bit.
No, I don't think there's any problem with senior leaders. If there are two people equally competent and equally electable in a constituency or in a district, preference should be given to the younger one. That's obvious and that's logical and that's right.
Another interesting aspect which was thrown open for the people to analyze and dissect was that how does the Congress Working Committee function? Is it going to exist, or is it going to become something which is a passé, or it's going to be redefined with some other term? How does CWC function now?
I have met many political leaders in my life from all political parties, including mine. I must say that Rahul Gandhi is one leader who is open to disagreement.
Okay.
The most open to disagreement is him. You can argue with him, you can disagree with him, and he will disagree with you, but he's able, you convince me or I'll convince you. That's why the working committee, I think, will have a much more proactive role in the future, because he wants to get different views.
Getting views is one aspect, of course, that you're open to the idea of disagreement and you tend to disagree with certain things and you tend to agree. But talking purely about the composition of the CWC, are we going to see members who are going to be nominated, or are we going to see some kind of an election within CWC? How is it going to really take place?
Now the resolution has been passed at the session that the CWC, the Congress Working Committee, members will be nominated by Mr. Rahul Gandhi. That has been in the 135 odd years of the party. That's been, except for 4 or 5 times, that's been the convention, that the president appoints the working committee. So he'll be doing that also.
But he did also talk about like half of the strength can be elected. So
that's in the constitution, that half are elected and half are there. But that's never been exercised. And as I said, it's only 5-6 times in the last 135 years there has been an election. But so this time a resolution was passed that it's left to him. We are authorizing him that to nominate the entire Congress Working Committee.
But in the past, we've also heard of accusations that, the deserving candidates were left behind, and the criteria, of course, was never meritocracy. So are we going to see leaders from the grassroots who will actually come up and make way in the CWC? Do you see that also as a possibility?
Rahul Gandhi is a great one for merit. I must say that. He recognizes merit, he wants merit, and I think that's the way he will structure the working committee.
This paradigm shift or the transitional shift is coming at a time when, as an organization, everybody is perceiving Congress as very weak in terms of seats in the Lok Sabha. You less than 50 seats. Then organization as such is not very vast and expansive. If you look at it in terms of the spread in the states, there are just about 3 states where Congress is in power. So plenary session was, my first question to you regarding this aspect is that the plenary session, was it only about political messaging, or did the party really introspect about the internal weaknesses which the party has right now?
Well, let me put the facts correctly. It's not that the Congress is weak. Politics that's what it's all about. Sometimes you're strong, sometimes you're weak. I remember being in Parliament when BJP had 1 seat in Parliament. They had 1 single seat. I remember when they didn't have a single state. Okay, that's a reality. And that was not very long time ago. It's when I was in Parliament. So I'm not talking history. So the last elections, obviously we got less seats. We had been in power for too many years and people wanted to change. People voted for that change and they are now very disappointed, as demonstrated by the recent by-polls. The recent by-elections have shown this, where the Chief Minister's own constituency in UP, he loses. And he's a mascot of the BJP. He's the Chief Minister of BJP and cannot hold a state. And he hasn't lost that seat, and the Deputy Chief Minister also lost his seat. Not because of an alliance between the BSP and the Samajwadi. If you take the votes together polled by them in the past, it's a swing away from the BJP. It's a strong swing away from the BJP.
Right.
And coupled with the alliance. It's not the alliance alone. The alliance alone could not have helped the Samajwadi to win. But it's a strong sway away. You take the by-elections in Madhya Pradesh. You take the by-elections anywhere. there is a strong sentiment where every section of society is going against the BJP. The voter in this country doesn't mind being disappointed. He'll accept being disappointed, but he doesn't want to be tugged. And when a voter feels he's being tugged, or he has been tugged, he will express that when he casts his next vote.
But Mr. Nath, surely the Congress as a party seems very emboldened by the victories which have come about recently in the by-elections in Rajasthan, in UP. But the million-dollar question is that what is the counter-narrative which Congress as a party is offering to the people?
Its own performance. Our performance in 10 years, the economy, the jobs we created, where every section of society was helped, the poorest to the poor. The largest single thing is, in the history of this world, no country has lifted so many people out of poverty as what the Congress did. Now, the people who have been lifted out of poverty understand that. And today, the people of this country are seeing these wrong policies.
But would it be right to go back to those 10 years when parties are offering a new India agenda?
Our thing will be, Congress has done it before, we'll do it again.
Okay.
That's it. And what's happened now? Every section of society is in distress. We must not forget that, whether it's the farmers, whether it's the youth, whether it's the laborers, whether it's the traders, every section of, never in the history of this country and never in my 40 years experience of political life, I've seen a government which has put into distress every section of the society.
So you mean to say that if Congress comes to power in 2019, there's not going to be any rural distress, there'll be jobs all across?
No, certainly not. We are not saying that. But we are also not saying we'll create 2 crore jobs per year. We are certainly not saying we'll put 15 lakhs in your account. We are certainly not saying that we'll give farmers 50% of their investment. We are not making those kind of promises. So that is why it's these promises where people are feeling they are thugged.
But the economic resolution which the party came about with in the plenary session, you did talk about your areas of focus like welfare, jobs, farmers.
We said our focus will be jobs, and we are going to give focus to the most job-creating sectors. That is what the focus has got to be.
Right.
There are, in industry and in services, there are some which create more jobs, some which create less jobs. So our focus will be on the job creation sectors.
But when you go on the electoral field and when you have to make competing claims with parties like BJP and for that matter even regional parties, they would also come up with their broader plans. Would you be in a position to say that, look, my party's blueprint is ready and people should come and vote for the Congress only?
Certainly. All we'll simply say is, and what I say every day in every public meeting and rally I have, that when we were there in government, what was the situation of the farmers? The minimum support price was increased every year. What is it now? There were never so many suicides of farmers. There never been so many farmer suicides in any country in the world, including in the poorest countries of Africa, which they've been in India. And everybody realizes this. And we must remember the Congress's network. You mentioned, does Congress have the spread? I must tell you that in our country's 4 lakh villages, 400,000 villages, there are 3 things you'll find. 1, you'll find a religious place. 2, you'll find a flower. And 3, you'll find a Congress worker. The BJP does not have this.
Talking about the political resolution now, it was very clearly said by Rahul Gandhi that you are looking for pragmatic alliances for 2019 without making claims towards the leadership. How does one read that? I mean, is the party not confident that you can become the main fulcrum around which all the regional parties will come about, or you would not have a credible leader on the forefront? How does one read that?
It's very simply read that we are not closing any door. We are not closing any door, we are open. And there has to be all-round acceptability of all the parties. We are saying that. We're not saying it's us and it must be us. What is the practical situation? And this will be thrown up only after the elections. But we must recognize that in any alliance, it has to be a win-win situation for both. So we have said that yes, we enter into pragmatic alliances. We entered into an alliance in 2004 with the DMK, We won 40 out of the 40 seats.
But if you look at the electoral math and the way the parties have come about, we've always seen that the regional parties have risen at the cost of the Congress party. Now, for example, I'll give you the example of when KCR and Mamta Banerjee meet together and they say that we have to form a federal front to stop parties like BJP and Congress. So it's not about Congress getting back to power. It's about their share in the pie. How they will bring about a federal front.
They are taking their own state considerations into account. As time goes on, all these will be ironed out. I'm not saying necessarily there will be an alliance. There'll be an alliance of all NDA parties. Okay? I'm not saying that. But there will be some kind of alliances. Okay? Alliances also may be contradictory. If one state's alliance may be contradictory to another state's alliance. We may be tying up with one party in one state, and that same party in another state would be opposed to us. So, this is what politics is all about.
But are you confident that Congress can really bring about all these disparate and regional forces together and say that, look, we will make the claim for the leadership and you have to...
We have not said that. First, the only national party is the Congress. Every regional party recognizes that. You don't have to... There's no great technology involved in understanding this.
Right.
But we must understand that in the end of the day, all those parties which want to keep the BJP and NDA out are the ones who are going to get together in various ways, in various states. There has to be an anti-BJP front.
Despite all the claims and the vision which has been laid out by Mr. Rahul Gandhi, the analysts and the political experts also feel that it's all very theoretical and he is obviously someone who's not tested the waters on the ground.
He's tested all the waters at the ground, and political analysts, you're talking about the BJP and the RSS analysts, they obviously will make these to please themselves. But at the end of the day, it is the people of this country, the voter of this country. And I say that, when I say that, I don't talk through my hat, I talk through experience. For all the years, I won my elections.
But Mr. Nath, would you be in a position to say that Rahul Gandhi will become the prime ministerial candidate for 2019 elections?
He'll be the Congress prime ministerial candidate, undoubtedly. The other parties can say, we will have so-and-so as the prime ministerial candidate, but they must have presence. And people will have faith in Rahul Gandhi because there's no politics of gimmickry. There's no Jumla politics about him. We must understand, people relate to him. And that's what matters the most.
When people relate to whatever Rahul Gandhi is saying, of course, there is a large section of people which is taking him seriously, and people do want to give him a chance that, look, he's a new leader and let's test him also. But then then the question comes back that he is a person who's wore the mantle of a dynast, and he is the one who's never contested in terms of leadership. Senior leaders like you, what would you have to say when this entire entitlement about dynasty and getting into the politics, getting into the framework of the party without any kind of election comes up? What do you really have to say?
I'm happy you asked me this because this can be answered very simplistically. In January of 2004, the most vilified politician in the country, or I say ever, was Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. I had hundreds of people, thousands of people tell me, why Sonia Gandhi? You had a Sushma Swaraj saying, I'll shave my hair. Somebody else saying that I'll leave politics. Somebody else saying I'll become an NRI. And Sonia Gandhi was attacked for everything. She was attacked for all kinds of things. She was taking on Mr. Bajpai, who was, people were fond of him. Okay? No section of society was particularly against Mr. Bajpai. And what was the result in 2004? Sonia Gandhi made Mr. Bajpai sit at home. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. Okay? So this answers my question. When you talk of Rahul Gandhi.
But those were times
when you said that he no experience, they said, what does she do? She doesn't give a speech properly. She reads a speech. She's of Italian origin. All these kind of things. What wasn't the attack on her? And she made Mr. Bajpai sit at home.
But Mr. Nath, those were times when politics was not like a guerrilla warfare as what is being fought in the current times. Where here you have a robust electoral machine of the BJP, their Panna Pramukhs, the way they go about with the booth management. Is Congress party really battle ready to take on this kind of a machine? Because your grassroots workers are completely demotivated.
I don't think so. If you're talking about grassroots voters, I know about it. Okay, and
Chhindwara could be one exception.
No, everywhere where I go, I see there's tremendous energy in the workers because they are reflecting and voicing the voice of the people. And let me say one thing, the only thing the BJP has is money power. The display of money in the last held elections, even in Gujarat, okay, where they almost got a beating. If it wasn't for Surat, they would have lost it. And this is the home state of the Prime Minister, of the BJP President. And it was the Gujarat model which was shown to the country to win the 2014 election. And that Gujarat model was getting the biggest thrashing possible. So the only thing the BJP has is enormous money power. But again, we must recognize that the people of this country are poor, backward, but they are not fools.
Party wins the hearts of the people through its ideology also. And what currently the perception is that with the way Rahul Gandhi visited the temples in Gujarat and with the way the narrative is being built up, he's making references of Kauravas versus Pandavas, and he makes references about Shiva temples. In his plenary also he did mention about that. So is there a certain shift in the kind of ideology, like from the left of center to secular to now
Certainly
you have
not.
a soft Hindutva approach?
Are the BJP the sole selling agents of temples in this country? I am as much as a Hindu as anyone else, but I'm not Hindutva. Okay? The voice of this people.
But why didn't the party talk about it earlier?
We always did. We always go to a temple. I built a temple in Chhindwara.
But the perception...
The biggest temple, Hanuman temple in this country, not in Chhindwara, not in Madhya Pradesh, in this country, has been built by me. I'm a congressman.
But Chhindwara alone is not building up the perception about the Congress party.
I'm saying so. I'm talking as a congressman. I'm not talking as Chhindwara. I'm saying I built it. Okay? And you'll say, why have you built a temple? BJP has got the sole selling agency.
Absolutely not.
So, if the BJP doesn't have that and Rahul Gandhi goes to a temple, why do they get so agitated? Rahul Gandhi always went to temples. He said that in his speech. I've always been to temples. But they said that no, anyone who goes to a temple must be only from the BJP. That is the politics which will destroy this country, which will divide this country.
Also, another thing which was mentioned in the plenary session was the fact that your party is now against the EVMs. Of course, whatever narrative was built that, EVMs can be rigged, but also at the same time, you come across as a party which is anti-technology.
No, technology can be used to fudge the EVMs. Let's take anything which is a software, can be programmed. And BJP can program just 10% of the EVMs, which can change the course of an election. So anything which is technology based and is a software can be programmed.
But the same thing can be said about the ballot papers. If you bring back the ballot papers, we'll go back to the days when booth capturing was so rampant. You would go back to the same age of lawlessness.
In the United States, elections take place how? With ballot papers or EVMs? It takes place with ballot papers. You mean they don't understand technology? How does it take place in Europe? By ballot papers or by EVMs? You mean they don't understand technology? And they've gone backward and we've gone forward. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say because it's nothing to do with technology. We are not concerned about technology. We are concerned, yes, technology can also be used to tamper with the EVM.
But the same people would even ask that during the 10 years of UPA rule, you never said that let's go from EVM back to ballot
because
papers.
There's a difference between us and the BJP. Our mind doesn't work towards tampering EVMs. And the BJP's mind works towards that.
So if your party comes back to power in 2019, you will go back to EVMs or ballot papers?
First, it's not been decided what's going to happen. Okay. We want to have a fair election.
Okay.
That's our point. And whatever way we can have a fair election, that's the way we want it. That's the way, whenever the Congress is ruled, no political party has ever said that it was fudged or it was not a correct election.
But your party...
Why only in the last 5 years?
Your party also has debunked the idea of simultaneous elections.
No, we've not said. We said what's the practicality of it.
Okay.
What's the practicality? If they wanted simultaneous elections, and if the Prime Minister wanted simultaneous elections, why didn't he issue, I'm just talking 4 months ago, the notification for the Himachal and Gujarat elections at the same time?
Okay.
You could have had a simultaneous election where you had a chance to do it. You could have made a start. But you didn't want to do it. So here the BJP talks one thing. The double speak what they are resorting to.
There have been reports post the plenary session that, of course, with the new vision and the new kind of document which is being laid out by the Congress party, is the party ready for a US kind of a presidential campaign for 2019?
This has been discussed many times. And when it is leader-based, it's been discussed, I remember, in the 80s. We went into the constitutional amendments, but it was debunked by the BJP.
Okay.
By the BJP, okay, that no, we don't want this. So this has been gone into, but when a party sets up a prime ministerial candidate, it automatically becomes presidential because they are voting for that phase.
If you go in terms of the personalities, and if it's going to be a clash between Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi, of course, it's not going to be like a battle of equals. At least that's what the people perceive.
Well, it will not be a battle of equals. I'll tell you why. Because Mr. Modi has been in politics for 50 years. Rahul Gandhi has only been in politics for 10 years. And Mr. Modi carries the baggage of 50 years of that kind of politics, and Mr. Rahul Gandhi doesn't. So people will want somebody who doesn't have that baggage.
My last question to you before I wind up the show. Can Congress party really survive without any person from the Nehru-Gandhi family? Of course, earlier you needed Sonia Gandhi as your leader. Now you need Rahul Gandhi as a leader. But can the Congress party survive without anyone from the Nehru-Gandhi family?
This is answered in the 84th session of the plenary. When a Congress worker comes, he just doesn't come expressing his opinion. He comes expressing the opinion of the people of this country. If they want Rahul Gandhi, okay, they want Rahul Gandhi. So there's no question of survival.
But the perception has been that if it's not anyone
Rahul Gandhi has not been imposed on the Congress party.
Right.
Rahul Gandhi has been elected, selected by the Congress party, by the Congress workers. And the Congress workers are expressing the opinion of the people of this country. It may not suit the BJP. Why Rahul Gandhi? That's why these issues are raised. But otherwise, nobody raises this in the Congress party.
But there is a perception that if it's not for a Nehru-Gandhi member of that family, it's very difficult to hold the fractious elements together. It's only because of the Gandhi family that these people are together.
Well, you're talking in the hypothetical. You're talking in the abstract. Okay? And the Congress has survived so many times. Under P.B. Narasimha Rao, there was no one. Under Sitaram Kesri, there was nobody. That is in the recent past. So why say this? It has survived.
Wish you good luck, Mr. Kamal Nath, for taking all the questions with a straight back. So that's it on this episode of To The Point. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for watching.